1494. Fergana Valley, Central Asia. A 12-year-old boy inherits a small kingdom. Within 2 years, he loses it. He spends the next decade losing cities, losing armies, losing the followers who believed in him. He loses Samarkand, the most beautiful city in the world, built by his ancestor Tamerlane. 3 separate times. Then he stops, turns south, crosses the Hindu Kush mountains into India with 12,000 soldiers, defeats an army of 100,000 men and 100 war elephants. He founds the Mughal Empire, which will produce the Taj Mahal, rule 300 million people, and last 300 years. He is 12 years old at the start of this story. He wins India at 47. He dies that same year. He also writes one of the greatest memoirs in world literature. His name is Babur. Everything is about to go wrong. Stay with me, because the man who lost everything and built an empire was more interesting in defeat than most conquerors were in victory. Babur came from 2 of the most celebrated bloodlines in Central Asian history. On his father's side, Timur, known in the West as Tamerlane, the conqueror who built an empire from Turkey to India in the 14th century. On his mother's side, Genghis Khan, the man who built the largest land empire in history. This sounds like an advantage. It was also a liability. Every prince in Central Asia had a plausible claim to power based on descent from Timur, or Genghis, or both. The Timurid kingdoms were constantly fracturing and reorganizing, with brothers fighting brothers and cousins fighting cousins for every significant city. Babur inherited Fergana at 12. His uncles immediately moved to take it. The instability that would define the next 2 decades of his life had already begun before he was a teenager. He inherited a throne and immediately started losing what it meant. The pattern that followed, win, lose, would repeat for 20 years straight. Babur captured Samarkand for the first time when he was 14. He lost it within 100 days. His own kingdom of Fergana had been seized while he was distracted. He had neither kingdom. He gathered forces. He captured Samarkand again at 19. He lost it again, this time to the Uzbek Confederation under Shaybani Khan, a force he could not match militarily. He fled south to Kabul. He was exiled from the world he had been born into. The Timurid princes were being consolidated out of existence. Samarkand, the city his ancestor Timur had made the most beautiful in Asia, would not be his. He captured a small part of Samarkand one final time in 1511 with Safavid Persian help. He held it briefly. He lost it again. He was done trying. The shift in direction that followed, from the center of the world to its edge, changed everything about what his life would become. Babur took Kabul in 1504 and made it his base for 20 years. This is the part of his story that is often skipped. He didn't sulk. He governed well. He organized Kabul's administration, secured the mountain passes, managed trade routes. He kept his court of scholars, poets, and artists because Babur was genuinely literary. He wrote poetry in Chagatai Turkic that is still considered significant. He also wrote his memoir, the Baburnama, a diary that records his campaigns, his losses, his observations of nature, his grief when friends died, his appreciation of a good melon in a foreign country, his complicated feelings about everything. He looked south. India was fragmented. The Delhi Sultanate was weakening. There was a window. What he did with that window, 12,000 men against 100,000, is one of the most extraordinary gambles in military history. April 21st, 1526. The plain of Panipat, north of Delhi. Babur faced Ibrahim Lodi, the Sultan of Delhi, with an army of perhaps 12,000 men against a force that some sources place at 100,000 soldiers and 100 war elephants. Babur had two things Lodi didn't: gunpowder artillery and a tactical innovation he called the tulugma, flanking formations that could encircle a much larger force. He positioned his guns in a line. He sent cavalry to circle wide. When Lodi's forces advanced, the artillery opened fire. Elephants stampede badly when panicked by cannon fire. The Indian army, which had never faced artillery at this scale, broke. Ibrahim Lodi died on the field. Babur took Delhi that afternoon. He won the battle in one afternoon. What he built in the 4 years before he died is what made that one afternoon matter for 3 centuries. Babur declared himself Emperor of Hindustan. The next 4 years, all he had before his death in 1530, were spent consolidating what he had taken. He won the Battle of Kanwa against a Rajput confederation in 1527. He managed the political complexity of governing a country whose language, religion, and culture he had known only from outside. He was fascinated by India, its plants, animals, heat, monsoons, and people, and critical of it. He missed the fruits of Central Asia for the rest of his life. He never fully felt at home in the country he had conquered. His son, Humayun, would lose the empire and reconquer it. His grandson, Akbar, would expand it into one of the wealthiest states in the world. His descendant, Shah Jahan, would build the Taj Mahal. Babur founded all of this. He built an empire. He also, throughout all of it, wrote his way through every moment, and the writing is what makes him genuinely unusual among conquerors. Here is what makes Babur genuinely unusual among conquerors. The Baburnama. He wrote it throughout his life. A first-person account of his campaigns, his defeats, his observations of the natural world, his relationships. He describes losing Samarkand with grief. He describes meeting a new flower and being unable to name it. He describes an event where his men got drunk in a way that reads like the kind of thing you tell people because it was funny. It is a primary source of extraordinary intimacy for the early 16th century. Most conquerors left monuments. Babur left both monuments and a mind. The mind is arguably more interesting. Babur lost his kingdom at 12. He spent 2 decades losing things he cared about: cities, armies, the homeland he couldn't stop missing. He turned south at 42 with nothing guaranteed. He founded an empire at 47. He died at 47. He had 4 years to see what he had built. Here is the question. Babur clearly wanted Samarkand. He tried 3 times and failed. The empire he accidentally built by turning south was larger and more historically significant than anything he could have held in Central Asia. Is the direction of your success always different from the direction you thought you were going? Babur thought he was a Timurid prince fighting for Central Asian glory. He became the ancestor of the Mughal emperors. He died missing Central Asia, in a country he had conquered but never quite called home. This is the Dragon Throne. We cover the men who lost everything and built something different, the exiles who became founders, and the memoirs that outlasted the empires. Subscribe. New episode every week.